I found it really interest about the meaning of the name of the brand.
ASICS is actually an acronym from the Latin phrase anima sana and corpore sano, which means a sound mind in a sound body. I like to say that all brands should find their fruits in their roots. And so for us, we went all the way back to our founding purpose. We were founded by a man named Onitsuka-san in 1949. He recognized the power of sport to not just uplift people's bodies, but also their minds. It has become even more important for us to try to get as many people as possible to be physically active, not just because of the physical benefit, especially because of the mental benefit.
You are a storyteller. You really believe in how, meaningful stories can engage consumer and how you go to that journey of product development to the point of sale and be consistent of the story that you tell your consumer.
It's one thing to have a story, but it's something entirely different to have an authentic story. We believe that the health and well-being of our athletes and of our consumers is more important than any medal or podium position.
Yeah, I feel like you should put yourself on an ad. I'm going to go and buy loads more ASICs now.
Hi everyone, welcome to Beyond Marketing, the podcast. I'm Mara Genovese, I'm the founder and CEO of Empower, a global integrated market agency. In this episode of Beyond Marketing, we will explore how heritage meets innovation and uncover strategies for blending a brand's rich history with a modern marketing tactics, maintaining global consistency and ensuring brand authenticity while embracing innovation. And to co-host this episode with me today, I will introduce our amazing and talent, Joe, our head of strategy at Power. So welcome, Joe.
Thank you very much, Mara. Thanks for having me, and pleasure to be here. So we have the pleasure of being joined by Gary Raucher today, who is the head of marketing and merchandising for the globally renowned sports brand ASICS, one of my favorites. He's got over 5 years of leading his team, and he's a master at blending the rich heritage of ASICS with innovative marketing strategies to keep the brand both authentic and exciting. He's coming from Amsterdam today. Very much a big welcome to you, but Gary, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Gary. Very excited to have you with us today. Thank you so much for taking the time. And as Joe said, I'm a big fan of ASICS as well. So I have, a lot of curiosity around the brand and how you guys, are maintaining such a heritage brand. So still, keeping the culture and the heritage of the brand, but also innovating. So before we kick off, I would love you to introduce yourself, tell our audience about you, how long I've been working at ASICS, what you've been doing the past years at the brand, so the guests can get to know you more.
Sure, perfect. So my name is Gary Raucher. I'm the Executive Vice President responsible for product marketing and merchandising at ASICS. I've been with the brand for the last 5.5 years, but have worked in marketing for the last 28 years, usually through the lens of understanding and influencing behavior. I think that's the red thread through all of my experiences. I've worked in the fast-moving consumer goods industry. I've worked in technology companies, and I've been trying to apply some of those skills to a new industry, but really ensure that it's used as a strategic filter for everything that we're doing inside of ASICS.
Wonderful. I was reading a lot about the brands and before we get here to the podcast. And one thing that for me, I didn't know it. And I found it really interest about the meaning of the name of the brand. And I'm not so sure that everyone knows it. Can you tell us like what the ASIC names means when you go letter by letter?
Yeah, so we like to say we're ASICS and our 5 letters have meaning because ASICS is actually an acronym from the Latin phrase anima sana and corpore sano, which means a sound mind in a sound body. And actually since 2021, we've started reusing sound mind, sound body as our tagline because we want as many people as possible to know that that has been our founding mission and continues almost 75 years later to be the reason why we exist.
I love that, and I didn't know, and I was very interested how you guys are using the meaning of the name of the brand to tell the story of the brand. Because I was reading about you, your profile. It says that you are a storyteller. You really believe in telling story, and how meaningful stories can engage consumer, and how you go to that journey of product development to the point of sale and be consistent of the story that you tell your consumer. Tell us more about, like, how to create a story around the brand that can keep consistent but at the same time innovating and using the meaning of the brand.
Well, I like to say that all brands should find their fruits in their roots. And so for us, we went all the way back to our founding purpose. I think that it's one thing to have a story, but it's something entirely different to have an authentic story. And at ASICS, I'm very fortunate that I have the opportunity to tell a very authentic story. So our company was founded, we're a Japanese company. We were founded by a man named Onitsuka-san in 1949. And that was right after the Second World War. And he found that society was in despair. People, and especially young people, had lost hope. And yet he recognized the power of sport to not just uplift people's bodies, but also their minds. And so he founded our company not to make footwear or not to make apparel, but actually to help people feel better. And that is what we've been doing for, this will be our 75th anniversary, but what we've been doing ever since. And I think it's probably more relevant today than it's ever been before. So, in 2019, the World Health Organization already started talking about a global pandemic. And what they were referring to were incredibly high levels of stress and anxiety that were getting just due to modern technology and our hectic lives and all of the instability around us. Then COVID came and made things so much worse. And so it has become even more important for us to try to get as many people as possible to be physically active, not just because of the physical benefit, especially because of the mental benefits.
Yeah, no, what you said is exactly what I was thinking when I was reading about the story of the brand. That I think it's so relevant now that the purpose and the meaning of the brand is around body and mind, especially as you said after COVID. I think the issues with mental health, and also the importance of understanding how to balance body and mind and soul, and having a brand that has been found based on that is just it's incredible how ahead you guys were. Even this become like a big thing nowadays, right?
Yeah, and I think that founding purpose really leads to our brand positioning, and we've talked about our story being authentic because it's why our founder started the company, why he named us ASICS, Anima Sana Incorpore Sano. It's credible because I'm sorry, it's authentic and credible because of the founding story. It's relevant because I think people today are facing incredible levels of stress, but it's also very differentiating, and I think that's really important for storytelling as well. We are very different than all of the other sports brands in the industry. And we've done a lot of work looking at brand archetypes. And almost all brands in this industry are either ruler brands or hero brands. So the rulers are the ones that say winning is the only thing that matters. And we want to talk about our dominance and being the best. You can't be the fastest, you have to be the fastest ever, which puts a lot of pressure on people because you feel like you have to win. And the other brands are the hero brands that say, well, you may not be winning yet, but if you put in the blood, the sweat, the tears, if you work hard enough, then one day you might be able to transform your body into a winner. And that also adds pressure to society because you feel like exercise shouldn't be a fun thing. It's something that I have to do because I need to transform my body so that one day I too could be a winner. And when we look at those brand archetypes, we say that we are uniquely a caregiver brand. Now, of course, we're a performance sports brand. We like to win, but we don't believe in winning at all costs. We believe that the health and well-being of our athletes and of our consumers is more important than any medal or podium position. And that's why we work with people and communities and charitable organizations to get more people involved in physical activity. And we ensure that we're developing products that are going to make sure that they protect people and prevent them from injury so that they can continue to stay physically active.
I think that's fascinating. I'd be interested. It might be my impression, but my impression is I would assume a lot of your competitors are now trying to move more towards a mindful area, less so winning, more so unabouted, more than winning, etc. How are you staying in front of them? Who's coming after you in that space? Yeah, we'll just be interested to hear about that.
What's interesting is that when we did this positioning work back in 2019, it was in fact a white space. Nobody was in this area. I think because of COVID, I think that mental health became much more top of mind, and we saw more and more people jumping on the bandwagon. And then now, as we see society returning back to, let's say, a sense of normalcy, maybe it's the new normal because we're still dealing with COVID, but that we can go back to how life, or at least similar to how life was before, you see brands going back to their own ways. So, I don't really want to talk about specific competitors, but let's say one of the world's largest, if not the largest, sports manufacturer just launched a brand new brand campaign, which is all about winning again. And is really suggesting that winning's not for everyone. Winning's only for a select few. And do you have what it takes to be a winner? And that's great news for us, because if that's the consumer that brand wants to speak to, that's okay. As marketeers, we can't be all things to all people, but our positioning is unique. And we think, and we believe quite strongly, it remains relevant. It is absolutely credible, and it continues to be differentiating. So even in that period of time when other people were jumping on the bandwagon, we said we are going to stick consistently with this story because it's the reason that we exist. And that's something that can never be taken away from us.
That's incredible. And like you talk about, like, okay, if your competitor, that's the tag of the consumers that they're tagging, the consumers that wanted to win or have how do you, what's the differentiate of your consumer behavior versus the consumer behavior of your competitors, and how you target then through data?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we work with elite athletes and everyday athletes. And I think that one of the things we pride ourselves on is the superiority of our product. And we do that through what we call the ASICS design philosophy, which starts with athlete testing, and then goes to biomechanical research, craftsmanship, and sustainable innovation. But everything starts with athletes, and often elite athletes, the same elite athletes that our competition is working for. But we believe that by developing product for the elite athlete, we're able to actually trickle that down and make sure that it is taking care of the needs of the everyday athlete. So we still have a big sports marketing presence. I mentioned before we began that I'm just back from the Olympic Games, and we have 350 athletes participating in the games that have qualified for the game. So of course we're there for the elite athletes. Of course we want them to do well. And of course we're doing everything we possibly can to help them achieve their potential. But what we realize is that the focus exclusively on performance is actually turning more and more people off from participation. And that is a problem when, as a brand, we believe that our mission is to help all people achieve a sound mind in a sound body. So we have seen a tremendous amount of research that the typical advertising and communication that is being done by most of the sports brands is actually preventing people because they feel that they don't belong. They feel self-conscious, perhaps, of how they look or of how they perform. They don't feel that they belong in this toxic culture of gym and high-end performance. And so what we try to champion is the fact that sport and exercise should be inclusive of all people. So when we talk about our elite athletes, of course, we'll celebrate their success, but we try to go a layer deeper and tell their human interest stories. Try to tell the stories of how they feel when they are actually performing. How do they feel when they are doing their sport? And that's the interesting parallel that you see between elite athletes and everyday athletes like us. If I take myself as an example, I may have a terrible day at work. I may be incredibly stressed. But if in the evening I play tennis, the moment that I walk onto that court, everything disappears and I feel better. So it's great that I tell my family and friends that story, and hopefully I influence them. But we can also turn around to a Novak Djokovic, who is one of our ambassadors, and ask him to talk about how much better he feels when he's out on the court. And so there is a way that we're able to use those elite athletes to be able to appeal to and attract a much wider audience.
How do you get that across in a tangible example, excluding your elite athletes? So if I'm not following the athletes that you're working with, how am I seeing that message?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at a number of our recent campaigns, especially the ones around World Mental Health Day, we really are trying to not rely on our elite athletes to get those messages across. So already in 2022, we had a campaign called Dramatic Transformations. And that was based upon this insight that our social media feeds are flooded with before and after exercise images. So it's called Exercise Transformation. And it is supported by almost every sports brand that, again, if you work hard enough, this is what your body looks like at the beginning. And after a period of time, this is what your body is going to look like. Our own research shows that it only takes 15 minutes and 9 seconds for someone to have a positive impact on their mental well-being, on how they are feeling in that particular moment of time. So what we did was we invited people into a studio. We took a before picture of them and we had them exercise for 15 minutes and 9 seconds, and we took an after picture of them and we posted this. Now, of course, most people said, what's the difference? I don't see any difference. The person looks exactly the same. If you look closely, though, you could see that perhaps the posture was a little bit better. There was a little bit of a smile. And the message we were trying to communicate was that not all exercise transformations are visible. And the most dramatic transformation is actually the one that's happening in your mind. That was a very successful campaign for us. Last year, we had a campaign called New Personal Best, where we said a personal best should not be defined by a number. And again, that is the common theme that happens in the world of sports. Your personal best is your number. You have to be measuring something to demonstrate that you have broken a record. When we believe that a personal best is actually a feeling, you feel better. And so what we did was, instead of going out to elite athletes, we actually worked together with the last place finisher of the London Marathon. And we made him the centerpiece of our campaign. Because even though he barely finished, I mean, they really were threatening to stop the race because he wasn't going to make it on time. His motivation, his story, the reason that he kept driving forward and how he felt after completing that race really made him feel at his personal best. And so we go to that level. Perhaps more recently, because you were also asking about how we leverage technology and innovation. We went to generative AI and we said, depict a woman who has been exercising. Now, based upon the millions of images of exercise that are out, on the web, the image that came back was a woman with a 12-pack, somebody that was so incredibly muscular. And then we fed the same machine learning program all of the ASICS images of the last 5 years and said, depict a woman who has been exercising. And all of a sudden, there was an average woman with, I won't say a big smile on her face, but an uplifted expression on her face. And so we consistently see and hopefully demonstrate that our approach is very different from all of our competitors in the sports industry. And that is definitely how we are trying to go much more broadly than just relying on elite sports marketing assets.
You said, you mentioned social media, right? And then you mentioned this example of this guy from the London Marathon that you engaged to tell the story. So how do you blend social media to build your community and to identify these characters like this guy from the marathon that can be telling the story of the brand, but also creating that social impact on social media? Because all the stories, I'm assuming that your guys are leveraged on social, right? Posting the stories on your channels. So how social media and community, how important is that for the brand, and how much are you leveraging social media, influencer, and community to drive the message of the brand?
Yeah, of course, it's important. I'd say it's important for any brand, and perhaps even more important when you're a challenger brand. Now, on the one hand, we are the number one running brand. We are the number one tennis brand. So you might say, why do I say that we're a challenger brand? We're a challenger brand because the size of our budgets is significantly less than some of our bigger competitors. So of course we have paid media campaigns, but earned is incredibly important. We need people to be talking about our campaigns. We need them to be sharing them. And I think the formula for success that we've been working with recently is we start by uncovering an insight, and hopefully an insight that is helping to reinforce that we're different than our competition. We will work with some form of social media influencer to gain some initial traction. And then we create a template that then is very, very easy for other people to replicate and start to share within their own networks. So if I come back to dramatic transformations, for example, we worked with Dr. Alex, who was probably known from Love Island. He was the face of the campaign. Because he was a known person, not only was he able to spread to a wide group of people on social media, but he was also invited to speak on the couch on the BBC, talk about the campaign. But because it was just a simple before and after picture, we made it accessible for everybody to participate. So within hours of the campaign launching, we had all of our employees posting their before and after dramatic transformation. Within days of the campaign launching, we had hundreds of thousands of people posting their own before and after image. With the new personal best, yes, we used the last place finisher of the London Marathon, which again generated a significant amount of PR coverage. But I also posted my own image of myself playing tennis. So we provided a template that was really easy for people to share. And it simply said, a personal best is not a number, it's a feeling. And it was a picture, it was a selfie of me right after on the tennis court, right after playing tennis. And the reaction that I received from my own community was tremendous. And it also inspired a number of people within my own community to also share. So I think for us, it's really about trying to have a very clever, insight-led idea, add some fuel to the fire by using people that have a community, and then making it really easy for the masses to also join in and participate.
It's amazing. I'd be really interested just what other channels are you finding are growing in your marketing mix in the last year or so?
We like to talk about product market combinations because we believe in sort of the granularity of growth. And it's really difficult to answer that question broadly across ASICS as a whole, because I think when you're talking about field hockey in the Netherlands, it will be different than if you're talking about netball in the UK, it will be different than talking about padel in Spain. So I think it depends upon the maturity of the brand. It depends upon how engaged and active the community is. It depends upon where and how our competition is focused. So a market like Germany, we have seen very, very high investments from some of our competition when it comes to their in-store presence. So I might say in Germany, we've actually been increasing our trade marketing support because we had some rather outdated fixtures and we needed to go in and make sure that we were clearly coming across as the premium brand that we are. In Spain, we hadn't been on television in 14 years. And what we saw in our brand metrics was that it was one of the few markets where actually, even the very top of funnel metrics were starting to decline. So we reinvested in traditional above the line because we needed to make sure that we were, again, top of mind of consumers. In the UK, we really have focused primarily on earned. So we do a lot of social, we do a lot of, let's say, traditional PR. We vary based upon the specific market situation.
So you use the coach and nuance to actually guide your marketing strategy in each market, but how you do that without not losing the key brand message?
Yeah, we do it because I like to always talk about freedom inside of a framework, and we're really clear to every single market around the world that this is the freedom that you have, and this is the space that you can go to. When my children were younger and we used to take them to the park, we would say, you can have fun in the sandbox. You can do anything you want in the sandbox, but I need to know that you're in the sandbox. If you're going to go out to the swings, you need to tell me first. And what we're trying to do is create the size and the shape of the sandbox for each of our markets. And by having such a clearly defined brand positioning, that is enabling us to empower local teams to develop both the creative, but also the media approach that is needed for their specific local market needs, because they all understand how we're using brand as a strategic filter, and they all understand the size of that sandbox that they're allowed to play in.
Very, very interesting. And then how you mentioned about AI, right? So that's what you said about AI means that you guys already using AI at ASICS. So you're already, leveraging from this new technology. And if so, how you're applying AI on the day to day, on guiding you on your marketing strategy, product development, social media.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, we are a large multinational company with lots of different departments, and there are some departments where the use of AI is much more advanced than others. I'd say that our operations team, when it comes to supply chain management and forecasting, is probably much more advanced than we are in the marketing area. Within the area of marketing, we absolutely are experimenting. I think that, we talk about marketing being art and copy, and I think that AI is enabling us to do that in, a faster and potentially more cost-effective way. We used to invest a significant amount of money in creating assets, even for internal go-to-market meetings. Whereas now we can say, well, actually, we don't need, I'd rather save that money and invest in better quality assets that will actually be used with end consumers. But now I can just use AI to be able to explain a concept at an earlier stage of the process. We are using AI when it comes to product copy and product descriptions, especially on our website, because that was a very labor-intensive process. We have hundreds of products every single season that come out, and to write the copy for everyone was really quite a time-intensive process. So we've been leveraging AI to see how we can do that more efficiently. We leverage AI when it comes to feedback and insights around our product. So we're looking to see what reviews are saying, and that is feeding insights back into product development. So, I mean, I would say that we're still at a very early stage, at least within the marketing department, but we're continuing to experiment and learn.
And you're seeing an impact, like a positive impact from AI rather than, because there's a lot of, conversation around the AI, right? The positive and negative of it. But for what you're describing now, you're leveraging only on the positive side of AI within the business.
Well, I mean, I think as far as improving our internal ways of working and driving efficiency, I see it as a positive. But like we tried to highlight in our campaign, we also see the very negative side of it, because it is reinforcing sort of stereotypes and category conventions that we are trying to challenge. It's not helpful when you ask AI to generate an image of a woman who's been exercising, that they show somebody that is even more fit than an Olympic athlete. So there are absolutely negative sides to it.
Yeah.
And especially as a brand that is a caregiver brand that is focused so much on trying to improve people's mental well-being, we definitely see the dangers of it, of AI negatively impacting people's well-being. And that's why we really are trying to challenge that and sort of educate machine learning, into our view of exercise and sport.
I might just some topical questions. I have sort of two. The first is very obvious. Olympics is happening at the moment. What are you most proud of in the way that you've approached the Olympics this year? What's really interesting? And then the second, relatively topical. It's very topical for London, and I think a lot of urban oases, but run clubs have been going through the roof in numbers across many kind of urban zones. How are you jumping on that trend? Are you jumping on that trend? What are you doing?
Yeah. So let me start with the first one around the Olympics, because of course I'm really proud of the program that we're delivering during the Olympic Games, our athlete performances, the way that we are hosting our customers there. But if you ask for what is the thing that I am most proud of, it's actually what we've been doing before the games and what we will be doing after the games. Because I think a lot of people show up and they say, okay, there's a lot of attention on the city of Paris at this moment of time. We're going to activate our brand. But we believe there's a lot more substance to our brand, and we believe that actions speak much louder than words. So we actually have a multi-year partnership with the city of Paris. And the reason that we initiated that partnership was that when the city of Paris put in its bid for the Olympic Games, it set the very high ambition of getting 3 million additional people active in sport. And we were thinking that's very much aligned with what we are trying to do as a brand. So how can we find synergy? So we have co-developed a program with the city of Paris, which in English would translate to Paris Move Your Mind. And what we have done is we have publicized all sorts of opportunities for Parisians, and many of whom perhaps have not yet been physically active, to come out and move with ASICS and experience the positive impact that moving can have on your mental well-being. And so it started with a series of mind runs that we did. We announced the partnership at World Mental Health Day last year in October. And in November of 2023, we kicked off a series of mind runs, which maybe is a segue later to your second question, because essentially it's a run club. Once a week, we're getting people together. We are having physical therapists there. We're giving people the opportunity to try on shoes. We have run coaches there. We divide people up into abilities. Some people might be able to run a 5K. Some people may not be able to run around the block. And we're helping people discover the power of moving and making sure that they're equipped in the best possible way. The next thing that we did was we developed a women's run, because what we also found was that in the city of Paris, there was a big disparity in the mental well-being of men and women. And we saw direct connection to physical activity levels. So women are participating in sport less than men. So we said it's great that we have the mind runs. They're open to everybody. But now we are also going to create essentially a run club. Once a week, we meet on the banks of the Seine. We created a great art installation there where it's the meeting point of all these runs. And we're building a community of people that have the opportunity to run in a group, in a safe environment, on a weekly basis. But Paris has been the center of everything we've done. So around Roland Garros and the French Open, we had a Rally for the Mind activation. We built a pop-up tennis court in the center of the city. It was in the Place de République. And we invited our elite tennis players who would be participating in the tournament to come and to play with local Parisians. And anyone that was passing by had the opportunity to get on the court, many of whom have never picked up a tennis racket before. Tennis, unfortunately, as much as I love it, sometimes there's a very big barrier to entry for people. If you don't have the equipment, if you're not a member of the club, anyone could come and play with famous tennis players like Ons Jabeur or Harriet Dart from the UK, and really just experience how great it is to move with ASICS. We a few weeks later had an uplift court, which will be a lasting legacy, but we transformed an urban park into a handball court, and we invited schools and communities, usually from more impoverished areas, to come and play with some members of the French national handball team that are now competing. They're defending champions from the last Olympics, and then they're in the Olympic Games. And the pop-up court was given to the city. It will move throughout the city, going to different schools. The handball court is a permanent installation. And what I'm proud of is that these are all legacy activations. It's not just about the Olympics. The Olympics inspired us. Paris was the reason why we are doing this with the city of Paris, but we actually have the ability to have a meaningful impact in people's lives, not just during the Olympic Games, but hopefully for years and for a lifetime to come. To your second question, and I'm sorry if I'm giving too long an answer, but it was a big for the second bit about run clubs. I think especially the world of running is all about communities, and we were talking before about social media and how people connect, but people like to connect in the real world as well. And so run clubs have always been incredibly important to us. And those examples that I've given with the city of Paris are actually happening all across the world. And I think maybe the biggest transition for us has been how we approach mass races like the ASICS London 10K or the Paris Marathon or the Tokyo Marathon. Whereas in the past, we used to think of them as just race weekend activities. People would show up at the expo, they'd get their bib, maybe they try on some shoes, and on the day of the race, we would have a big balloon arch, and there would be barriers along the way, which from an awareness point of view is great. But actually, if you want to build a meaningful connection, if you want to build brand preference and ultimately brand loyalty, you need to be with people throughout their entire journey. So what we now do is when people register for an event, they tend to do that 6 to 8 months in advance. And so we're interacting with them throughout their entire journey of preparation, trying to bring people together, create communities, give advice, offer the opportunity to try product. And then after the race is over, we stay in touch with those communities. We work with a company called iRewind, where we can offer people a personalized finisher video as a nice, congratulations, we've been on this journey together. Here are the highlights of you during your last marathon. And I think that is creating this sense of community and really building preference and loyalty for our brand.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Fascinating indeed. Looks like you guys are combining online and offline in a very strategically way, right? Because like when you think about COVID, we like any brand could not do anything experiential wise, right? Gather together with the community. And then there was like a conversation about how after COVID, how it is going to look like. But for hearing what you're saying, your guys are very much, out there again on your experience gathering community, but also combine that with the online, right?
I mean, it has to be the combination of both. I think the same way that, all brands are now looking at how do you provide a seamless omni-channel experience. When people think about that, they tend to think about it from a sales perspective. But for us, we're trying to create a seamless experience online and offline from a marketing perspective as well.
Wonderful. When you talk about future, tell us if there's any future innovation that is already on your mind, on your plan. And if you can give us a spoiler, what is the future innovation for ASICS looks like?
Well, I mean, of course, I can't give too much away, but what we believe very much in is a world where there will be more personalization and even more sustainability, and are taking the first steps already now. So, as part of our Olympic experience, we bring people to our ASICS house and we paint a picture of we call it Vision 2030, of how we see the world evolving. And at first, when we tell some of these stories, people think, "Oh, that's really far away," but then we say, "But here's what we're already doing." So, for example, in the area of personalization, just last week, we launched a smart green factory, which is basically using 3D printing to create customized and personalized sock liners, which are the insoles that go into your shoes. So we're already known as having the most comfortable shoes in the industry, but this will make them even more comfortable because they can be built specifically for your feet. Now, of course, this is, our first prototype. It's not in mass production yet, but it gives a vision of where we're going in the future. The same when it comes to sustainability. In April, we launched our Nimbus Mirai. Mirai is the Japanese word for future. And one of the really innovative things that we have done is we've developed a new type of glue that enables people to very easily separate the midsole of a shoe, which is the foam, from the outsole, which is basically the cover on the top. And that has always been a huge barrier when it comes to circularity and recycling, is the ability to separate the different parts. This is already in a commercialized product. And now, of course, we will look to see how do we use that technology, how do we bring that innovation to more mass market across all of our products. So I think that, those are the areas that we will focus on. But it's important to remember that the number one filter for us will continue to be our brand. For 75 years, we've been about a sound mind and a sound body. And for the next 75 years and beyond, we will be about a sound mind and a sound body. It's literally in our name, as we discussed at the beginning. So even though we might get excited about a latest trend or a latest technology, we never will develop technology for technology's sake. We always will use the brand as a strategic filter to guide what we do, and importantly, what we won't do.
Wonderful, and congratulations, because I think this is one of the biggest challenge for for brands with such a a legacy and a heritage like ASICS. It's just like how to continue to grow the brand and product development and add technology into it without losing the vision and the purpose of the brand, what you said, and the main message. And I think you guys are doing brilliant. And it's fascinating to hear the story, because one thing is you hear about it, but another thing is to hear you talking about it, right?
I mean, yeah, I feel like you should put yourself on an ad. I'm going to go and buy loads more ASICs now. Honestly, it's really impressive, and I'm hugely inspired. Thank you.
Yeah, and then it is great. Like for me, it's this sound mind and sound body. It's so accurate for the world that we're living right now, right? So it's so important, because it's not just about how you look, but it's about how your mind is actually functioning, and it's just so much the level of the stress that the world that we're living in right now. It's just like we're consuming so much information through social, TV, and radio. So you're kind of it's so much information for us to digest and then to keep moving forward, and to have a brand that's keeping you on, remind you the importance of both, right? The body and the mind is just is incredible. So thank you so much, Gary. It's a wonderful conversation.
Great. Well, thank you again for the opportunity to speak with both of you. I'm thrilled that even before our chat, you were fans of our brand, and I hope after the chat, you're even more so. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And then I hope everyone that's listening to us today have enjoyed our conversation. Very inspiring to hear more in depth the story behind ASICS. And hope you have enjoyed. If you're not following us yet, please make sure you do on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon. And thank you so much for being with us. And I see you on our next episode. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thanks, Mara.
For being with me once again.
We try. Thanks,
Thank
Gary.
you so much. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Bye-bye.